Potato tits.
Potato tits? That is
Potato tits.
that's a new way to start the podcast.
I thought so.
Yeah. Well, you're Ken, so that's all that matters. And Brian froze, so he's not here this week. No, he's working.
Yeah.
He was sick, but now so I just put his image up like when we used to do when Ken disappeared. So, we're back and we are Murder Moose, part of the Slash and Cast Podcast Network.
It's in the game.
It's in Ken's ass.
It's in my ass. Hello.
Wow.
I have like 87 pimples on my chin.
I get that, man. I had like a couple weeks ago where it was like literally it was like 3 on my face at one time, and I was like, I am either using steroids that I don't know about, or like I'm a teenager again. And Zelda's here demanding treats. She's mad because she left the other poodles and now is like, Daddy, I demand treats. So
she left the other poodles and your new dragon children.
Yeah, my dragon
chosen to leave behind.
I know. One of them is even named Rodbert.
Aww.
The Rodbert, the gecko, Rodbert the gecko. So, yep, they are alive and moving. So we're here and doing this. So more. I don't think I'll be babysitting anytime soon. So.
Well, they're your children, so it's not considered babysitting. It's considered watch your fucking kids.
But they just imprinted on me. I didn't buy them myself. They just were associated.
Yeah,
with
they're
me.
your children now.
Yes, I am the mother of dragons. Yes. I was. If you don't know, I was watching Zeke and Katie's house, and we knew this was going to happen. Katie had found out that 2 of her geckos were a boy and girl, and they had did it, and they had like 2 eggs that were viable, and we're like, oh, they're just gonna hatch when I'm watching their house, and they definitely hatched while I was watching their house, and so, yep, I was like, oh, and that was after like Katie's one snake escaped her cage while I was there, and so like, yeah, luckily it didn't go very far, and it's blind as fuck, like it's an albino snake.
Oh.
But like, I was like, chaos, Ken. Ken's wearing what I think might be the creepiest hoodie ever made, and
I was wearing it today out in the backyard with the boys' mom, and she was like, that is very unnerving. And I was like, listen, I have on a Halloween shirt underneath it, so like this is where we're at. And she's like, it's unnerving. I love it, but it's unnerving. And I was like, okay. She's like, yes.
Yes. Well, that's like, I went and saw The Substance. I was telling Ken about it like today, and I'm like, this movie is wild, and we're gonna probably talk about it when it comes to streaming. But I'm like, it's funny because I haven't seen reactions about a film like this in a long time, and it's been pretty nuts. And I actually now I'm starting to see reviews of the movie you want to see, Ken, which is Heretic.
Heretic?
Yeah. And it's supposed to be really, really, really good also. So more your favorite kind of horror, Ken, religious horror. So
it's so funny because like I never thought that I would love religious horror like growing up.
yeah.
But I cannot get enough of that shit. Like, absolutely cannot get enough of that shit. Speaking of The Substance, only because somebody had brought it up. Their information was wrong, though. They had a budget of 17.5 million, and they've only done 3.6 million so far. But they were saying that they had only made like $3,000 or something, and I was like, that doesn't make any fucking sense. But okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they're not doing well. But anyway, I just wanted to see.
The movie I had seen trailers before other horror movies this year, but like I hadn't seen anything anywhere on like YouTube or anything like that. It was just like I went and looked for movies this weekend and it was out. And I'm like, this is out. And between that and the Halle Berry one that came out, which I think was like starting to be like Never Let Go or whatever the fuck it's called.
Yeah.
Which it kind of seems like The Quiet Place mixed with the Sandra
the one with the mom and her children, that
boy and girl.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was that movie even called? I don't know.
Never Let Go.
No, the Sandra Bullock one that was
Oh,
on.
Bird Box?
Yeah, Bird Box. It reminded me of those two movies combined, like A
Yeah.
Quiet Place and Bird Box, and I'm just like, yeah. So,
I did find out that The Platform 2 is coming out, which if you haven't seen The Platform, it's a Spanish movie on Netflix. It is so good. It is so fucking weird. It should not make any sense, but oh, it is so good.
dude,
So I would like to watch that.
have you seen it?
The first one, yeah.
Yeah, okay. That movie's wild, and I really enjoyed
Yeah.
it. But it's very like
It's
it's,
slow going at first, and then
but
you're like,
it's very anti-capitalist, which I love, and it's
yeah.
very much like which is relevant in the days that we live in. But it's just like, man, this shit is wild. So yeah, yep. So let's see. I the reviews for Terrifier 3 are coming out and they're really good. And I tried to watch Terrifier 2 when I was house sitting and poodle sitting. And for whatever reason, trying to watch that on Plex, that movie is never wants to work for me. And so I have a physical copy, I just didn't have it with me. So
Mhm.
I'm going to have to, I think that comes out not this Friday, next Friday or something like that. It's pretty soon.
Yeah, it's really soon. I was just looking up uh movies for October that were coming out, and I've ended up on like an Indian website because it'll be like not being streamed in India. Um, there's a lot of really good looking stuff coming out that
Yeah.
isn't being like greatly publicized. So, did you know that there is a new Nightmare on Elm Street scheduled to come out?
Uh, I don't think that's actually scheduled to come out. There's like that's one of those
Like
rumored
a
things.
rumor?
Yeah, it's a rumor, but like
Yeah.
the last I had seen of that, the Craven family was still selling the rights to it, and what I gathered they hadn't sold it, or it's under, it's a thing because that's been like rumored for years now. Like
Right. That's what I thought.
so I don't know, and if it is, it's real on the download. Like it's real. Like they've kept it hidden in a way that is impressive because yeah, I don't know. So I haven't heard anything about that. And the
Yeah,
person
there's nothing like if you Google it and stuff, there's nothing listed there. So I don't think it's legitimate.
yeah, I watch enough weird random YouTube horror YouTubers that like I think I would have an idea if it actually had, but who fucking knows, man? It's just like you don't always, it's like sometimes they just drop this shit, right? And it's like
Mhm.
so I hope dude, but like the person I want to make a new Nightmare on Elm Street is Mike Flanagan, who's busy making
Oh, it'd be so good.
he's busy making the Exorcist movie, right? So like I don't know. I guess he was at the premiere for Terrifier 3 also. So
He's working on what?
the
The
ex
Exorcist movie?
yeah, he got the next Exorcist movie, so
Okay,
see
I'll watch it then.
yeah. It has to be better than that last shit one. God, True Believer, that movie was so bad.
Oh, is
So
he
bad.
doing the like complete remake of the original Exorcist?
I don't think we have any real details. They're just saying he's doing the next Exorcist because Blumhouse paid like $200 million or something for the rights to that movie, and that last one bombed because it was so bad. Um,
Mhm.
so I don't know. I don't know if they've actually really officially listed details. I can't see them doing a remake, to be completely honest. Like I think that it's very much maybe I don't know. They remade Texas Chainsaw Massacre, so like I mean they've remade a lot of those things. I don't see Flanagan going in that direction, but like
Yeah, no,
maybe.
based off of the interview that he did, I don't think that he wants to do a full remake. I think he wants to do something else with it because he said he's got plans. It's a radical new take and it's going to become his scariest movie yet.
Which is a crazy statement if you've ever seen Oculus, because Oculus is a wild fucking movie, but that movie is very dark and not something I would ever want to watch more than once or twice. But like, man, yeah, he's such a talented director. Because I just saw like we were just on the thing that like it was like the 3 year anniversary of Midnight Mass coming out,
I saw that.
which is fucking. I mean, that is my probably my favorite horror show of all time. That's how much I love Midnight Mass. Like
So good.
the show made me
It's
cry like a
definitely
baby.
not my favorite of those, but it's definitely up there of them.
Yeah.
Also, uh, it looks like he's starting Dark Tower at some point. He's gonna be doing the Dark Tower books,
I don't mean I.
but
That's a
I'm not sure.
yeah. That sounds like another one. I think that was a rumor back before like he got the Exorcist rights. So I wonder if that like, I think Amazon or someone like had a whole thing like right after the movie with Idris Elba came out, which I have on Blu-ray and have never actually watched. But because I heard it's not very good with it's with all right, all right, all right, and
With
Idris
Matthew
Elba.
McConaughey?
Yeah, he was the bad guy in that
What is it? Sorry?
the Dark Tower.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I didn't wanna watch them because I heard they weren't very good, but,
Yeah,
I thought that Flanagan was doing all kinds of exclusive shit with Amazon because his stuff was getting pulled from
yeah,
Netflix, or,
yeah,
like, he wasn't gonna be working with Netflix anymore, and he was gonna be
yeah.
moving to Amazon, but I don't know now.
Dude, it's so weird because I think a lot of that shit was happening in 2020, 2021, and then like the fucking streaming crash kind of happened, and I don't know if
Mhm.
all these like they're canceling stuff, and because that's what happens when they cancel this shit, they don't say anything about it, right? They just most of the time like it just people stop talking about it, and then you're like, oh, whatever happened to this thing? Oh, it's just not being done. You know what I mean? I don't know. I know he's working on an Exorcist movie, and I think that's going to be his next movie. But like, I don't know.
Hmm.
His name gets attached to a lot of shit, man, and it's just like I don't know. We have I mean, Smile 2 is coming out, dude. I
Yep.
think that the first trailer I saw, like you had brought it up earlier, but like the first trailer I saw, it was like the first time I saw a trailer for it, and I'm just like, oh, they just went full on. This is Lady Gaga, but not Lady Gaga. You know, it's like the outfit is her hair even kind of looks like her, and I'm just like, you just went like, oh, we're gonna make Lady Gaga into a horror movie, and then just well at the same time Joker 2 is coming out, so it's pretty funny. So uh, October's gonna be a wild month for movies. So,
Yeah, I'm
uh,
hoping to just live at the theater a couple days, so
I mean, you have a lot because of you living in BFE and like the like. I mean, you haven't even got to see Alien Romulus yet, and I'm just like,
no. We were supposed to go last weekend. We were gonna go to a drive-in, but it was further out than we thought it was, and then I thought that he didn't really wanna go, and I was like, "Oh, well, we'll just, save the money," 'cause it was a really far drive,
yeah.
and he was like, "No, no, I did wanna go," and I was like, "Oh, fuck, my bad." So but, uh but yeah, I'm gonna see what's in when I get in town and probably just go. I know they're doing a huge Texas Chainsaw Massacre thing for the 50th anniversary at Central Cinema, but I don't
Uh-huh.
think I'm gonna go to that one. But, yeah, there's a bunch that's gonna be going on, so I'm probably just gonna go spend a couple days just
I know,
watching
right?
movies.
Like right before you moved up to Canada, basically, you were like going. You started going to that little independent theater and just loving it. Um, so that's
Yeah, I like that place a lot. It's really
yeah,
sweet and it's really cool. And I don't, like I said, I don't know exactly what they're doing for it, but they're doing some type of special event for the 50th anniversary. So,
yeah. I mean, I just want to watch Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 over and over. So it's um, yeah. Um, it's there's a lot coming out, man, because it's been like it's not been a bad year. There's been a lot of big stuff that's come out this year, but it's been like it's I don't know. It's been a weird year because like Long Legs was the one that got all the attention, right? And like I like the Long Legs, but like I don't know. And then we have Terrifier 3 coming out, which we know because God, the Terrifier fans are like cultists. Like at this point, they're all just like Art the clown, and it's just like dude, the practical effects and whatever, cool movies, but man, you guys are acting like it's the greatest thing since sliced bread, and I'm just like, okay, I'm not giving you shit because your opinions are yours, but man, I don't get it. So yeah,
oh, they're
yup,
showing Psycho Gorman at Central Cinema. Next month too. Interesting. Sorry.
Ken loves hunky boys.
In
So Ken,
celebration of Steven Kostansky's, I butchered it, I'm sorry, new horror comedy Frankie Frico, we're offering two optional double feature options with this 2020 cult classic crowd pleaser. Sadly denied a proper theatrical release due to the pandemic. That's
yes,
cool.
dude, that his new movie looks wild, wild. The Frankie,
Hmm.
whatever they just talked about.
Yeah, the Frankie Frico or whatever.
It's like all crazy practical effects again, and I'm just like, yes,
Frankie
yes.
Frico. Yeah. Oh, yeah, that does look wild.
More like crazy, like alien horror, whatever, or something like that. It looks like alien horror. I'm not saying it is, but it looks like alien horror. So yeah, you should go
Yeah,
do
that
all
looks
those things,
cool.
Ken. I mean, you still have to, see your family and all that shit, but like, whatever. Movies, movies. Okay. Let's dive in then. Let's go talk about Cook, Cuckoo, Cuckoo.
Cuckoo.
Ken.
Cuckoo.
So Sunday morning, Ken is streaming, and she's like, "Rod, you need to watch things about cuckoo birds before you watch this movie." And so I literally watched a 50-minute documentary about cuckoo birds on YouTube, which was not all about cuckoo birds. There's some honey bird that also does the same kind of thing as a cuckoo bird, and I was like, "This is interesting." I don't know if it needed to be 50 minutes long, but here we are, and I enjoyed it. I had like Ken on one screen, YouTube documentaries about cuckoo birds on another screen, and here we were. Ken, do you want to do the information and synopsis for Cuckoo?
Absolutely. A 17-year-old girl is forced to move with her family to a resort where things are not what they seem.
You know, I really, 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 really did like this movie, but I don't know if you had the same feeling I did, Ken. Did you feel like there were like things that like they kind of like they might have left a thing or two out about some of the stuff, especially about the lady person that like didn't really explain a lot about what she was and like,
Mhm.
and that was my biggest problem with this whole movie. It was just like that, like, also the little sister. I maybe it was just a plot weird brain thing. Why was the little girl Asian? And like the two parents were as white as they came, and then like
No,
the
the mother was Asian.
if
They
she
even
was,
said how she was such a resemblance to her mother, which they
she
thought
did
was
not
weird.
look anything like her mother. Is what I
Listen,
thought.
it literally was part of the movie because they discussed how she
I
looked so much like her birth mother or
you know
her carrier.
you know why they said that? Because she looked nothing like her, and they wanted to like, oh yeah, that's her daughter. And I for even after they said that, I might have missed it or whatever. I was like, this girl is so adopted because she looked. That girl was like the mother was like maybe 25. Like she didn't look. She looked like a white lady who kind of looked Asian, and then the little girl is like 100% Asian. Um, but even then, she wasn't even the mother's. All right, she was like the 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 siren thingy majiggers thing. Like I was trying to figure out at the very beginning of the movie. You start off with that scene with the girl. What's the actress's name that plays the main character?
Her name is Hunter Schaefer. Schaefer. Schafer.
And what was her character's name again? I can't even remember.
Gretchen.
Gretchen, yeah. Gretchen is in this truck with these two random guys, and I'm just like, what the fuck? That scene felt really disconnected to me, and I couldn't figure out where it actually connected to anything. And I'm just like, what the fuck is happening? And it was like she was like hitchhiking to get to this resort, or like her mom that died, and like I was like, I my biggest problem with this movie was that it felt like they kind of had some information that they like kept away, and it wasn't like
I
information that
agree completely.
yeah.
It felt so like sorry, I'm totally jumping in on you, but
No,
it
you're
felt like
good.
there was all kinds of important like pieces that were just supposed to be understood, but then like just not added. But then I went on Reddit and I was doing like a dive on it because I was making sure I understood like what was going on. And somebody was like, I hate when they spoon feed you so much information in movies. This movie spoon fed us on everything. And I was like, dude, did we watch the same fucking movie? Because I didn't know anything about cuckoo birds until the movie like explained it. And I was like,
Yep.
fuck, I wish I would have known that before the movie
Yeah.
because that would have made a lot more sense. And like, I didn't know about all these different facets. And they were like, yeah, they just spoon fed the whole fucking movie.
No, no, they explained what a cuckoo bird did and is known for at like
Yeah.
3/4 of the way through. And it was like a couple lines of dialogue. It wasn't like spoon feeding is, in my opinion, and when it comes to like giving like exposition dumps, is way different from what they did in this movie. Like, because they had that thing where it was just like Dan Stevenson's like, oh no, that's what this is known for. And he's the one doing it. He was the cuckoo bird basically in the film, right? He was the one taking the child from this whatever she was and putting him into like replacing. And that means that they had, which is the thing where it goes back to like the little Asian girl wasn't the girl's mother, if you follow the logic of what a cuckoo bird does. And that chick looked like, I don't know, looked like one of the little kids from Village, the damned grown up. Like she had like weird white hair and the weird like whatever, and it was like, I did you find in any year diving into this film like anything that was like, oh yeah, this is this monster, or this is like, because the only thing I could kind of was like, oh, it kind of reminds me of like a siren kind of thing, but
Yeah, the only thing I found was basically that it's a particular humanoid creature. Um, but they like don't they didn't really give a lot basically.
yeah,
And because Katz and I were going back and forth about that because he watched this with me
yeah,
and he was like he kept calling them demons and I was like, no, they're not demons. And he was like, well, you called them demons. So I may have called them demons, but they're not demons. Like
yeah,
they're some type of humanoid.
yeah.
Um
They're
and
like
they
a
just are weird.
yeah, they're very more like cryptid kind of thing. It was more like a
Yeah.
cryptid. It was like a
Well,
cryptid
didn't
that
they use the terminology cryptid at one point?
I think there was a point where they said cryptid, but I'm not
Yeah.
like that. And it's a cool thing. Like this movie, like Gretchen is awesome, and I like the thing, like her relationship, and like that they have that going thing where like you kind of assume pretty early on that her mother died because she just keeps calling her mother's like, voicemail or a message machine to hear her voice. And it's that thing where like you're like, oh, okay, this is this weird like, I think that it's like kind of reminded me of some of the stuff we've watched where it was like they rely too heavily on like, so like I like when horror does the thing where like they kind of put you in a world and like you don't over explain things and kind of let you, but like I think there are points and there are facts where it's like you cannot give enough information and you make people go, but why, huh, like. And I think that this movie might have gone a little too much on being mysterious, but
Mhm.
like I really liked the movie. Like the weird fucking time travel or the time like echoes or
Oh,
whatever the fuck they are.
I looked up what about that. So basically, the reason why that occurs is that the brain gets like really disbobulated, and those
Yeah,
waves make it so that it looks like other things are moving for you, so that it makes it look like people are like moving really quickly or like you're bouncing back and forth, but it's just your brain waves like being kind of scattered. You're not
yeah,
actually traveling through time.
yeah,
And the fact that like she's able to kind of see that and know that is part of it, but like there's that part was weird. There's a whole thing that I found earlier about like was there a moment where they explained why the flute or this particular type of music would pacify them? Why exactly is dude preserving them outside of the fact that it's a species that's going to disappear?
yeah.
Like it just seems so like what is he getting out of preserving this
I,
one species that's obviously damning in some way, right? Like I mean, you get the feeling that it's damning. Maybe
yeah.
it's not. I mean, outside of
I
there is the whole like these women are having children and not knowing that they're not their children
yeah.
aspect.
I to me it seemed like he was doing a kind of like alien kind of thing. Like he was trying to
Yeah.
make military like weapons. That is what it kind of came across like he was trying to make something that was like a powerful thing that he could sell. Like
Mhm.
because the you don't get everything with like the he talks about it at one point, but like they'd been doing it for a while, right? And so like I the only thing with that's a little weird is that Dan Steven is it Stevens or Stevenson? Is it Stevens, right?
I think it's Stevens. Sorry, I just had it up.
Yeah.
I was reading through more people's complaints about the movie.
I
Uh,
I think he was a little young to be like have gone through a bunch of the. That's what the one thing that I'm like. I wonder.
Stevens, yeah.
Yeah, it's Stevens. Like it's like he's the thing where it's like I wonder if he's a little like young to have been doing that for that long, but you wonder if like he joined the program and blah 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 and like I don't know. Like it's also like the weird thing of whenever the time thing happened and they kept like, doing that like they were like looking at the chest like right above like below the neck and there's like there's some organ there that like was making the whatever happen and you're just like
It's
what
the
the
vocal cords that like are supposed to be handling stuff or whatever.
yeah. I mean it's like that weird like I don't know. And that's the thing, right? It's like you left a lot to like go on like the lore of this. And I think the lore being what it is in this film is probably like I said, is probably the biggest weakness. But like, man, I think this movie is a lot of fun. I thought like Gretchen was awesome. I think Dan Stevens his terrible German accent the entire movie was fucking fantastic. Even it was fantastic because it was so bad. But it was like bad in a entertaining way. Um
Yeah.
it like
I, I like that there's okay, so let me ask you this. There's a woman that wanders in, for those of
yeah.
you that have not watched this or whatever. The woman that wanders in that like starts really hardcore flirting with Gretchen and then they like sneak off and like make out or whatever. Was her sole purpose as a character specifically to be Gretchen's escape from this place? And why the fuck did I miss where Gretchen's father went during all of this other than the fact that he's just a garbage person? It felt like he was unnecessary to the plot other than to point out how much of a garbage person he was.
I mean, it was I think they were giving off the vibes of like so they had this hotel, right? And then like a resort. And then they were like her parents were building another one, like a new one. And so a lot of this movie takes place in this the old resort because she's working there or whatever. And they're at the new resort or whatever building it. But like especially like you get to that point it's like the little sister is either hitting puberty or whatever and so she's having all these weird problems because of that because she's not a human um and they don't I mean we don't know any anatomy of the woods siren or where the fuck she is and she's like overheating and having seizures and all that shit and it just seems like she's coming into her power of whatever her mother is and like so he spends a lot of the movie also in the fucking hospital but like I think there's a thing where they're kind of going like I don't know if they're like kind of implying or it's like more of a Gretchen's perspective that she's been replaced by like the new family and like her mother died and like now there's his dad has a new wife and a new daughter and
Well, with that, like something that I thought was really interesting because I was looking up again a bunch of shit on Cuckoo Birds and the movie. Somebody had stated, at one point she mentions that her sister ate her twin in the womb.
yeah
Womb. And like apparently cuckoo birds do that. Like if they hatch and they're in a nest and there's an egg beside them, they'll push the egg out
oh
to
yeah
like
yeah
made to have as many resources. So there
yep
was a thought of, okay, Gretchen is technically not full blood related sibling,
yeah
but
she's the
she
egg
is.
yeah
So is the monster is the reason not monster is the reason why the biological mother so aggressive towards Gretchen because she's taking resources from her child and
so
like lots of conversation around that.
there's a fun in that documentary I watched. There's this other bird called a honey. I can't think of the fucking name. It's another African bird, and it does the same thing as a cuckoo, but it goes and it lays eggs in like ant hills. Like these birds have like ant hills, or they take over old like abandoned ant hills, and the thing is, if they go and lay their egg too late, if they lay them when they lay them on time, right? Their eggs hatch first, and they're born with these little like predator bird beaks. They're like hooked, and so they're born, and then they grow for a couple days or whatever. And by the time the other eggs hatch, they get this thing where they're basically psycho. Like if you touch them, and they fucking like peck the chicks to death. And cuckoos, like the one that they focus on in this documentary, like I guess these species of cuckoo, one of the things that's cool about them is that they basically have adapted their eggs to look like specific species of birds, right? And like cuckoos, when they're talking about like when they're born, they have the power of badonkadonk, and what they do is they badonkadonk the other eggs out of the nest. Like they have this reaction where like something hits their back, and they like twerk, and they twerk the other eggs out of this. So like so that they're at the club, they're clubbing, and they get their other eggs out of their fucking nest. And it's also, I like, one of the things they showed in that documentary was like sometimes they'll do this and the other birds will like, hey, look at you little, like they know it's not their egg, and then they fucking eat it or like toss it out or whatever. And it's just like,
right.
It's that brutal thing, because the honey bird, like the problem is when they time it wrong and the other eggs hatch first, they try to bully the bigger chicks and they get pecked to death and like eaten and shit like that. So it's a very much of like a brutal process of like, and that makes me think that like if they're implying stuff like that, like Gretchen likes her little sister. I mean, she complains about her, especially a lot in the beginning of the movie, but like she doesn't like hate her. She's not like competition. She doesn't like go after her, but like it's that thing where like her little sister like monopolizes her parents' time or whatever she does. And so you go, is it like, I don't know. It's that interesting thought process of like, of what nature does to survive and what you do to survive in nature, right? Like nature's fucking brutal. We know that. And it's like, that's why people are like, oh my God, animals are like that. And it's just like, no, it's nature, man. You do shit to survive when you survival means doing crazy shit, right? That's just what happens, right? And I'm just like, man, I think it's crazy like judging nature for these things doing this. And it's like, that documentary refuted cuckoos as parasites, basically, because they like, they go in and take resources and like, take other stuff out. And it's like, it was funny. Like the cuckoo does this and like they put their eggs in these nests and they knock the other eggs out. And then when the cuckoo hatches, like in a couple of days, the thing is like bigger than the mother, like the other, like the birds that are feeding it. So it's like this giant puffy chick just going, feed me, feed me, feed me. And also there was an interesting thing in this documentary about that, like that crows are like a big thing with like cuckoos too. And what was fascinating about it was that when cuckoos do that with crows, it actually ups the survival rates of crow babies, because they're whiny little bitches. They're like, they demand food like constantly. They're like, food, 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 food. So the parents are more like on guard. They're like alert all the time because they're like, oh fuck, we have to deal with this little bastard because he won't shut the fuck up. He's like, food, 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 food. And so it's an interesting thing because it's like, and that's why like I went into this and I kind of knew that like, I assumed that there was some replacement, and because I'd watched this thing before watching Cuckoo, and I'm like, and that was why like the little girl being like, whatever from the mother thing, and it's just like, I get what you did with this, and I just think that there was like, I think they stumbled like conveying the whole cuckoo thing when it came to everything like that, because the monster be like, it's like you have this movie called Cuckoo where the cuckoo doesn't really show up because it's the crazy lady until like, whatever, halfway through or whatever, and then you don't ever know what she is. So it's like,
Mhm.
and then like brought up Dan Stevens and his German self does, like, you don't know what he's doing with, like, he talks about making stronger versions of this, but it's like, but what is it? What are you actually going to do with it? And they never go into it, right?
Right.
So it's all like wild, and you're just in there going like, I, I. It's one of those things where people like go off about like how much they love this movie, and I did really enjoy it. I thought it was good. I just don't think, I think this is like, you go out of 10. This is like a 7 out of 10 because of some of the like maybe 8, 7.5, maybe 8,
Mhm.
but it could have been like a 9 or 10 like out of 10 maybe if you had provided a little bit more like in like I would have liked to know what the mother lady was, instead of like Village of the Damned Child growing up in with weird steampunk sunglasses or where the fuck is going. Dude, I will say though, I think my favorite scene in this whole movie is when she's riding her bike home. And,
That's terrifying.
yeah,
That's so well done, and it is so terrifying.
and she just sees the shadow, and you're like,
Mhm.
what the, ah, and it's just like fucking wild, and it's just like, that was so well done. It kind of reminded me of have you seen In the Mouth of Madness? The
No.
John, oh god, maybe we need to do that at some point in this podcast. But there's a scene where they're driving down the road in the middle of the night, and there's like, not old, it's an old lady, but it's someone in lady makeup, is obviously, it just appears in the middle of the road, and they plow her over. I think they plow her over, and you're just like, it's that thing where like just things pop out of the middle of the night, like on the road, and you're just like, which is a fucking
That
horror.
shit fucks with me. That
Yeah,
idea fucks with me. When I was younger, I always had the fear of just people being in the road or things just
yeah,
in the road at night. And this is like a two-part story. When I was younger, I was in high school, and my friends and I were riding around late at night, dark roads, back roads, before GPS was like readily available. It wasn't on
yeah.
our phones, any of that shit. Um, and I was like, dude, wouldn't it be terrifying if there was just somebody in the road? And we were on this back road, just dicking off. It came around a corner. It's like a one-lane road basically, and dude in the road. And I thought I was gonna die. I thought I was gonna have a heart attack. And then fast forward to I was in my early 20s, and I was driving up to my parents' house, and they live up on a mountain, and underneath a street lamp there was a guy. Like, I came around the corner and I was going up the hill, and there was a guy just standing under the street lamp, smiling and staring at me, and watched me drive all the way past. I started crying. I couldn't breathe. I was like, it was the craziest experience because I've never really had paranormal experiences that
Yeah,
I can like legitimately
yeah,
recall. I
yeah.
will never forget that. And every time I drive by that place at night, I get cold chills. It's so scary. But things in the road, yeah, no, fuck that
It's,
noise.
I mean, it is very much like, I know what you did last summer, right? That's like the whole
Mhm.
concept is like, but like, no, dude, like, he smiled at you?
Mhm.
How close
And
to
just
him were you?
watched my car. I mean, like, he was on the edge of the road, and I mean, probably like, I don't know, probably like 7 feet ish, 6 feet from him, like maybe less than that even. It was a lot. My brain
Dude,
will
I would have shit my
never
pants.
not think of that moment. Like, it
Dude, that's,
freaks me out every time I drive by there.
dude, that's the kind of shit that like I love that kind of, I mean, that's the kind of shit that like turns into copy pasta, right? Like the like
Oh,
you
for
like,
sure.
and you're just like, and yeah, that's the thing, that's why that fucking scene is so fucking horrifying. You're just like,
Mhm.
I mean, we all have that, like humans as a species have a fear of the dark, because it's the same thing as like the ocean. It's the, when you can't see what's around you, it's the like, you have that, your brain, your primal caveman goes, something, there's a predator that's gonna come get you, right? And it's just like, and that's why that shit's just like, that's like when when you're home alone and you hear a fucking noise in your house, and you're just like,
Mhm.
it's that fight or flight kind of thing, and that's the shit you're just like, fuck. And man, that's like, that was such a great scene in this film, and it's like, I think like my favorite scene in the whole film, and it's just it's the creepiest scene in this whole movie. And there's a
Mhm.
lot, like, because that the mother of the little sister is generally pretty creepy, man. And there's like, every time she shows up, she's got that weird, like, wasn't she doing like, was that because I was watching random stuff, she was doing like the Wolverine, like, were like running on all fours, wasn't she, at some point? Or was I thinking it was something else? I've watched a lot of weird things lately, so
I
maybe it wasn't.
honestly don't know.
Yeah. Um. But man, it's that thing where it's like, I wonder if there's like a part of this. This movie also kind of feels like a fairy tale, right? Like, it's got
Mhm.
that fairy tale aspect of like the weasel in the corner. No,
Mhm.
but it's got that fairy tale aspect of it, right? Like, where you got this, like, your dad, like, kind of like Cinderella kind of thing, where you're replaced, and your father goes and marries someone else, and then, I mean, in Cinderella he dies, obviously, but like, um and you
Which
sit there and
this guy might as well have been dead. He was a
yeah,
piece of shit.
it's that very much like, yeah, that's why that it has that fairy tale thing. Like, it very much, like, it feels like a fairy tale. And now that we've been talking about it, it's got I mean, you're in Germany, right? Which, guess what? Fucking, where did all the fucking fairy tales come from? Germany. Like, were they all
That's a good point.
yeah. Um
Speaking of fairy tales, I really, really, this is a side note, I really want Stephen King's fairy tale book to be made into either a short series, like a limited series, or a 3-part movie.
that would be cool, man. Like, it's been weird with Stephen King stuff lately, because like, we were just, before we started recording, we were talking about Salem's Lot coming out in like next month or whatever on Max. And then there's like, I mean, and but that's been like in that kind of like, that movie's almost like, I think that movie might have been in like, it's kind of like in the same boat as like Toxic Avenger, but like, at least people were talking about it. And like, Toxic Avenger, just, we talked about that when we did the old Toxic Avenger, where we're like, this movie is in like weird, like, holding patterns. And like, I don't get it, man, because most of these horror movies cost, would you say this cost $7 million, or no,
That was another movie. Hold
yeah,
on, I
that
had
was
it.
the the one I keep talking
It
about.
cost 7 million. Yeah, it was 7 million.
Okay. So it's that thing where like, these movies don't like, I mean, it I never saw, like, I looked at Alamo more than once to see if it was playing there, and I never saw it playing in Alamo. And my Alamo is small, so it doesn't get all the screens, which means it doesn't have all the like kind of indie things like this. But it felt like another movie that like nobody knew about outside of the horror community, right?
Yeah, I'm looking right now to see if it was showing at the theater back home, but I don't remember when it came out.
I don't. It was over the summer. I don't remember when exactly, but it was like over the summer, and yeah, it's been a weird like year for horror movies, man. Like, because we're about to get like, Smile 2 is gonna get a bunch of the, I assume, marketing here coming up for it to come out. Um, Obviously, everyone bitched about Speak No Evil, and like, what
Why
Speak.
did they bitch about Speak No Evil?
So, because every single movie that was R rated had a trailer for Speak No Evil before it. Like, it was every single, like, it. I saw that trailer 3 times at least, and so it was the running joke that it was like you had seen the whole movie and whatnot, and they kind of
Gotcha.
they kind of give away one of the bigger like reveals in the movie in the trailer also, which is annoying as fuck. I knew about it beforehand because I knew about the Dutch version of the film, but like, yeah, so that was why people did not like that trailer. But like, it's been weird with like all these movies that have like, it feels like a lot of these smaller, they haven't dumped any money into marketing for these smaller horror movies this year outside of Long Legs. And it's just like,
Yeah, which makes no sense. Like there's a movie called Azrael,
Yeah,
which is probably how it actually is. I hadn't heard anything about it, and the
yeah,
only reason I saw anything about it is Central Cinema is showing it.
yeah,
And like it looks really cool. So I don't know what
yeah.
that's about,
I saw
but
someone talking. I mean, isn't Azrael a fallen angel? So like,
yeah,
it's probably a.
Azrael's a fallen angel.
I assume it's a movie about a demon then, but like, I don't know. I think I saw the poster for today for the or like this week for the first time, and I'm like, what the fuck?
It says, in a world where no one speaks, a devout female led community hunts down a young woman who has escaped imprisonment. Recaptured, Azrael is due to be sacrificed to an ancient evil in the wilderness, but fights for her own survival.
Interesting. The poster is cool, looking like a
Yeah,
dude and a
poster looks
woman
really cool.
with like blood all over their faces or something, if I remember right. I don't know.
Yeah, this is after the rapture. Ooh.
Interesting. Yeah, so it is like a demon. Like so, all the people left are like, evil or not redeemed as like worthy or whatever, right? Like,
Yeah, and it's Samara Weaving who's the main
dude,
character.
I haven't seen her in anything in a while, man.
She
I
was
love.
in the not Glass Onion, Red no, not Ready or Not. I mean,
She
she
was
was
in
in that, but,
she was in the babysitter movies and
yeah, she was in something recently that was it wasn't The Glass Onion, it was the movie about where, like, they have a game in the family Ready or Not? Yeah, Ready or Not.
I mean that was her first one, right? That was her big one that like kind of popped out as her like putting her on the map of everyone. And although I had seen her in the babysitter before that,
Mhm.
I really like those movies. I think the second one was a little redundant, but yeah, we talked about them on here a long time ago. Like in the BK days, the before kin days. um, but yeah, I like it's weird because like this movie I think has like inside the horror community. I know you follow a lot of TikTokers and horror stuff, and like we both like talk to people that are horror people. And like everyone who's seen it really liked it, right? I feel like most people who've seen it like really liked it, but like it's just been inside the horror community. And again, because like you would just have horror people on like Twitter and whatever, like in YouTube and stuff, kind of praising the movie. But it's like, why don't I'm not saying you have to like do a like $20 million campaign, like or like marketing campaign. Obviously, you're not going to do that when you pay $7 million to make a movie, but like get the word of the movie out there. And it's just like there's so much like I don't know, man. It just weird to me that like it feels like these cool little movies that like again, this movie isn't perfect, but it's fun as shit. It's like really well
Mhm.
made. It's like the acting's great. The concept is unique and cool. Dan Stevens is fucking hysterical. That gun like him and like the cop trying to kill each other at the end, I was
That was
laughing at.
glorious.
Yeah.
People were complaining about that, and I was like, "Dude, that was such a great
Dude,
play, though." Like, they both were very that was very smart.
well, dude, it was also like what would happen in a real shooting. People don't like it's not like a John Wick movie, like where some like people don't just stand out in the middle of the open and like go, I'm gonna shoot at you. Like you're gonna hide behind things if you're in a gunfight with someone. You're not like
I will say, though, the gunfighting, the gunplay, because I thought you were talking about when the girls were hugging. That was weird. When the girls were hugging and, like, walking out and using themselves as shields between people, but I loved the shootout scene because I was
yeah,
like, "This is a mess," and then
yeah,
people on Reddit were like, "God, nobody can hit the broadside of a barn," and then somebody else was like, "Obviously, you've never shot a gun," and, like, the thread was phenomenal.
yeah.
But, yeah, that was a moment.
I mean, it was another like that was another part of that whole movie where it was like, uh, where it they kind I don't know if they fully explained it or they just kind of implied it, but the cop who was a former cop, you learn later on, his wife had apparently been like had the same thing happen where she got abducted to like get impregnated with this other like the monsters whatever. They really don't they just said he was investigating, right? And
Mhm.
like it's that thing where you're just like he's all fucked up because of all that, and then like, and one of the weirder characters. I mean, everyone's weird in this movie. Like, I think part of the German accents of everyone, but like you said, the chick that shows up and there's just all of a sudden there's a weird lesbian kiss out of nowhere that like
Mhm.
I'm like,
It's just so random, like, it doesn't like, it feels like her only purpose because she's not there to be someone for her to, like, lean on necessarily, like, her only purpose is to be the escape vehicle at the end, which makes no sense,
well,
so
not even that. It's the she's also, yeah, I mean, at the end she's the one that gets her to get in that car accident where the like where like she ends up in the hospital and like where a lot of that stuff. I don't know, man. It's the like I said, I think looking at this movie as a fairy tale, as I've talked about it with you today, is probably the best way to do it because it's got those fantastical elements of like fairy tale horror. Like it is, and like I said, being in Germany, it makes me think of fairy tales even more. And I'm like the elements of like the dead mother, which is a very fairy tale thing, right? And then like this mysterious monster thing that's like singing a song. It's you know what it reminds me of, and go back to more fairy tales, the Pied Piper, because
Yep.
he plays the flute kind of like to control or whatever he does with it, and like it's kind of like that element of it. That's what, man. This is a fairy tale. It's a fairy tale
Mhm.
horror movie. That's what it is. Like I don't know. It's odd and it's weird, and I think that there's a like there are bits of it where I'm just like, I wish that things might have been explained a little bit more. But like, if it was a fairy tale, like I'm saying now, then this explains why. Because it's like, oh, there's no point because it's a fairy tale. You just know, you don't know why there's a big bad wolf that's like going through the woods and like eating people and eating Little Red Riding Hood and all this shit. You just know that he's there, right? And it's like fairy tales, you could do that and you could get away with it because it was a fairy tale. So I I think there's like it's very much like not as like I didn't have this thought process until I sat down and talked with you about it, but like it makes sense to me. Like it's a fairy tale, and like yeah, I don't know.
Mhm.
I think this was one of the better horror movies that has come out this year. Although, but it's like I just wish.
I don't know. I mean, like, it wasn't bad. Don't get me wrong. It was definitely I like the fact that they were trying to do something different. The cast is really good, but I don't think it's great by any stretch of the imagination.
See, I liked it a lot. Like, so I like. Sometimes I know I bitch about movies that like I'm saying good things about. Like I'm saying a lot of bad things, but it's like I think a lot of times that stuff like kind of sticks in my mind and it makes it easier to talk about like the next day. Like, because we often do. It's
Mhm.
been a couple days since I've seen this now, but like I just think that it's a weird concept of like I I just love when a movie this movie it's not like generic, right? It's not like a like this like movie you've seen a million times, right? Which I like. It's like different, and that's a big thing.
Yeah,
And
it's a different concept. It's not the same bullshit that's just regurgitated over and over.
yeah,
There's an attempt for something different. And I do like that part, like, absolutely. It just feels like for me, it kind of missed the mark.
yeah, I get that. I think that like my biggest, like I said at the very beginning, I think the very biggest issue I have is that it feels like it's sitting there like not giving you enough information, and
Mhm.
that's what like someone said that they were can't what like like you don't know what the monster is. You don't know what Dan Stevens is doing with the fucking children. You don't know how long this has been going on. You don't know any of this shit, right? And it's like I I I think that yeah, you don't know all this shit. You don't know why how the mother died. You don't know any of this shit, right? And it's just like hand feeding you or fuck you.
Yeah.
Like of all the things you would say of this movie, like give hand feeding you information is just like no, because like this is one of those movies that like I don't think everyone's gonna come out of it and go, it's a fairy tale, like I've just been sitting here saying for the last, half an hour. Like, but like, I don't know, like, which is cool. Like, again, not saying you have to love this movie, but I think that the thought process and the ability for us to sit here and kind of go, oh, well, what about this? And what about this? And what about this? Is cool. And it's cool in a way that's like, this doesn't happen every day. You don't see this in like horror movies. Like you get like most horror movies are pretty like point A to point B, right? And it's like
Mm.
I I was kind of like we're talking about this. I was talking about the substance, right? And like there's a lot of questions I had with that movie too, like especially like where the substance came from. But like I it's that thing where when you have questions, there are varying degrees of for any film where like that drives conversation. It drives like discussion. I think you can overdo it and have it so that you go, but I want to know a little bit more about this stuff. And it's just like, it's a very fine line, right?
Mm.
So I don't know. I think that this movie's cool. I think it's not exactly in common type of movie. This is a very like, it's like
It's
again,
a
like a,
great it's a great movie attempt for something different.
yeah. And like a lot, I think it's, if you watch as many horror movies as you and I do, it's definitely
Mhm.
worth watching, right? And it's like
Yeah. Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
I think a lot of like non diehard horror fans might watch this and be like, "What the fuck," kind of thing. And like, okay, but like, I don't know, man. You do a cool little movie for $7 million, and it's like, now Dan Stevens has done like how many horror movies that I've really dug now because he did Abigail earlier this year. I guess he was in the
Mhm.
newest Godzilla versus Kong movie too. But like, in the movie where he tried to go to the steal or like save his sister from this cult in like the 1800s or whatever the fuck it was, or
Oh,
early
what
in
is that called?
it was in Netflix. I can't think of the name of it. I think I've talked about this before.
Wait,
Like,
was it one of the Cabinet of Curiosities ones? No.
no, he
But
was in
he was
that.
that but he also voiced the parakeet in The Boy and the Heron, which I am not ready to watch.
Oh yeah, you were talking about that. Let me see if I can find this real quick. I have his thing up. Because I watched it like on a win one day, but I was like, holy shit, this movie is wild. I didn't know he started off on like Downtown Abbey because I've never watched Downtown Abbey.
I
Um,
haven't either.
where the fuck is it? He was also Legion, which I still okay. That wasn't it. Not Marshall Permission. What the fuck is that movie called? Man, he's just done a lot of weird movies that like. Oh, the first thing I ever saw him was The Guest, which is a wild little
That's
like.
a good movie. I didn't realize he was in The Guest.
Yeah, he was the bad guy.
Wait,
He,
really?
yeah, he was the bad guy that stayed in their thing that like where the fuck was that goddamn movie? Apostle. That's what it's called.
Oh, wait, no, I don't remember The Guest. I was thinking of something else.
Apostle is the one I'm talking about. In 1905,
Apostle.
a drifter on a dangerous mission to rescue his kidnapped sister tangles with a sinister religious cult on an isolated island. Dude, it has one of the gnarliest murder scenes I've ever seen in a horror movie, and I'm just like, so yeah, like that's a movie we could do on this podcast at some point. But like, we are going to do the other movie we talked about doing this week was Oddity. So we're gonna do Oddity because that's another movie that's gotten a lot of praise this year. Um, and I think that the wooden doll is gonna freak Ken the fuck out because I mean she's covered in baby head dolls, but like Ken's sweatshirt. If you're not watching and just listening to it, it's basically like what a serial killer would keep in his like closet of his baby's room. It's just baby head doll heads. So
It's baby
yes,
doll heads and they're broken and some have eyeballs missing and it's black and gray and
it's
it's nice
wonderful.
and creepy.
Just like Ken. Wonderful.
Ha.
Wonderful. Okay, cool. Yeah, I think this movie is interesting, and I think like I think it was at least a fun talk. I mean, like again,
Mhm.
this I don't think this movie's going to be for everyone, and I think it kind of feels like stuff like what's the fucking movie where the with Kevin James as the bad guy, like the Becky, kind of remind me of, like
Uh,
Becky, and I not similar in plot, but it's that teenage like girl going through really weird shit and it being like that kind of thing. It kind of gave me that kind of vibe, but yeah.
mhm.
Um, okay, so we're gonna do Oddity next week, which is the wooden doll horror movie, which is supposed to be pretty creepy, is what it sounds like.
I'm excited.
Me too. I was like, I would have done that this week, but Ken wanted to do this first, and I was cool with it because I wanted to watch this too. So yeah, okay, we're gonna do Oddity next week. Brian will hopefully he was sick like Sunday and Monday, and then like he has to work tonight, so that's why he's not here. Even though you can see him on the screen right now, he's there. So yeah, go to murdermoose.com and order a sweatshirt or a hoodie or something like that, or I mean a t-shirt of a Murder Moose, and yeah, and go to Rod_Johnson on Twitter and Twitch and watch me there, and then Ken, your stuff
Come watch me build factories because by the time this comes out, I'll still be playing
with
Satisfactory.
Greg.
So with Greg, who keeps catching rides, I did trains today. So I'm curious to see where we'll be at. I'm sure I'm about to have a massive power outage. So
Dude, I laughed my ass off because I saw a clip of. I didn't know you could do this in Satisfactory. Do you know Julia, the one who does like emotes for Dan's Gaming and Co? Like she, like
mhm.
that's her full time job is doing those most of those two, and she got into JP's Satisfactory game when he went AFK and tried to shove him off of a cliff, and like she ended up falling off the cliff instead. That game is,
That's
it's
funny.
it's not my type of game, but it's fun watching Ken play it. So you do all that
Oh,
stuff. So
sakes.
okay, guys, next week, Oddity, we love you, and we'll catch you guys next week. So bye.
Bye.